Hello students, welcome to KENE'S Educare, a group of KENE solutions. This is part 1 of lesson Is Matter Around Us Pure? Now in the last class, like if you remember, we studied the lesson that is atoms and molecules, and we studied something like what is an atom. Now you are already aware of, right? Atom, the meaning of the word atom means indivisible, means it's like when there's something which you cannot divide it further, we call those atoms as, like, that is why atoms have been named as indivisible, right? And Democritus, Leviosa, then Maharishi Kannad, they were all the ones like who are coming up with the philosophical statements. And then at the end we got like Dalton's atomic theory, where we have studied some of the postulates and like what philosophical statement Maharishi Kannad, like the Greek and the Indian philosophers, was coming with. Like if you take any substance, okay, like let's say if you take any matter around you. Now matter is something which occupies space and have mass, right? So if you take any matter which is present around you, okay, be it any matter, when you take any matter and you keep on dividing it, so you will reach a point at the end where like you will get the smallest indivisible particle which you cannot divide it further. So that is what we have studied about atoms, right? And we have even discussed on molecules, because we studied that atoms cannot exist independently, right? They're always going to combine with either molecules or ions further so that they can have like a proper formation, right? So we do know that matter is made up of particles, and these particles, they are arranged in a certain way. It's not that the particles are randomly arranged. You might have studied about all the three states of matter that we have, that is solid, liquid and gas, right? So when it comes to particles, solids, why do they have a definite shape? Do anyone know the reason of why solids have a definite shape? So the reason is, let's say a book which is in front of you. Okay, that is a matter because it is occupying space and it has mass, right? So your book is a matter and is made up of particles. And book is a liquid, gas or a solid? Book is in solid state, right? It means the particles are compactly arranged in solid. Getting it? So because of that, the book has a certain shape, right? So because the particles are compactly packed, the book has a shape, proper shape. Now liquids do not have their own shape. Now if I take water and if I put that in a container which is triangular in shape, the water will take the shape of the container. If I put it in a, you can say, in a container which is rectangular in shape, the water will take the shape of the rectangle, right? That is how it works. Okay. And gases, they do not have any force of attraction, and the particles are like all very much away from each other. So why is it so? And that is the reason that gases, we cannot see air, right? We can only feel air. So it is all because of the particles that are being arranged in a specific and a certain way. Okay. See, gases particles are well separated, and because this particles in gases, they keep on moving freely, right? What happens? They are not visible to us. They do not have a definite shape, right? But when it comes to solids, they are going to have particles which are tightly packed and there is no scope to move around. Now because the particles are not able to move around, we say that solids have a definite shape because they are compactly arranged. Getting it, everyone? So here, like, we will be discussing in this lesson, as the name of the lesson is matter around us pure? So when it comes to purity, pure, what are pure substance? Pure substance are nothing but they are elements or compounds. What are they? Pure substance means, like, pure substances are elements or compounds which are made up of only one kind of entity. There will be not be a mixture. It will be made up of only one kind of entity, and we cannot break them down into simpler entities by chemical or physical method. So they are going to have a fixed composition. You cannot break them down into simpler entity. And if I give you any example of pure substance, it can include diamond, it can include carbon dioxide, and there are so many examples for this. Okay, so see, a substance that only contains one type or class of atom, that is said to be an element. Okay, and because we cannot further alter it in any way by any of the physical or chemical means, we cannot alter it, we cannot break down, or we cannot create any new substance. An element is going to be a pure material. So majority of the elements will be metal, non-metal, or metalloids. Getting it, everyone? So now I just want you to write some of the points on metals, pure substance. Right? Pure substance are elements of or compounds, and these elements are made up of only one kind of entity, which cannot be broken down into simpler entity by any of the physical or chemical method, because they have a fixed composition. And you can write the example as diamond and carbon dioxide. Getting it? So I want you all to write about this in your book about pure substances. Further, we will be discussing on like what is compound, and I will even let you know the difference that exists between compounds and mixture, because that is very important, right? So we'll study that as well. But for now, please write a note on pure substances. I hope everyone is writing about pure substances. I hope everyone is writing a note on pure substances, and also you can take a note on like what exactly matter is. Okay, that is also very important for you all. Now after this we will be studying like more about compounds. Okay, so let me tell you now what is compound. What are compounds exactly? Okay, and but before that we have like some few more points on pure substances that you should know. Remember that most of the time the composition of the chemical is going to be constant or uniform in any of the matter. Okay, and the boiling and the melting point are also going to be constant. Okay, so in a chemical reaction a pure substance often takes part to produce predictable results. Okay, this is what like you should be knowing, like whenever we are having any chemical reaction a pure substance is going to take part to produce some of the predictable results. Okay, now the next thing that we need to discuss about is compound. So what are compounds? Compounds are the substances consisting of two or more different types of elements in a fixed ratio of its atom. What are compounds? Substances consisting of two or more different types of elements in a fixed ratio of its atom. Okay, I'm like telling you again the definition of compound. When substances which are consisting of two or more different types of elements they combine in a fixed ratio, we call it as compound. Got it? Now you should be knowing like what is the difference between compound and mixture, because in mixture also we have two or more different substances which are combining together, right? And in compounds also we have two or more substances which are combining together to form, you can say, to give us a specific compound, right? So see, what are compounds? First you can write the differentiation between what is compound and what are mixture. Okay, so compounds are substances which can be formed by chemically combining two or more elements. What are compounds? Compounds are substances which can be formed by chemically combining two or more elements. Okay, and mixture are substances that are formed by physically mixing two or more substances. So mixture, we are like, in mixture we are mixing two or more substances, but we are doing that physically by using our hand. Okay, and when it comes to compounds, compounds also have two or more elements which have been combined, but here there is like they are chemically combining together. Okay, and in mixture they are physically getting combined together. Okay, so compounds they are going to fall under pure substances, whereas mixtures we can categorize them as impure substances. Compounds are pure substance and mixtures are impure substances. Okay, and always remember that for compound the chemical composition of compound is always fixed. What? The chemical composition of compound is always fixed, whereas a mixture can have variable composition of substance forming it. Because while we give the definition of compound, we state that the two or more elements are present in a definite proportion, but it is not the case in mixtures, right? So that is why we can write one differentiating point as such, that the chemical composition of compound is always fixed, whereas for mixture it can have variable composition of the substance which is forming it. Okay, then after that the fourth differentiation that you can have is compounds are always homogeneous in mixture. Okay, whereas mixtures they can either be homogeneous or they can be heterogeneous as well. It depends. Okay, they can either be homogeneous or heterogeneous in nature. Got this 5 points? Now we have one more point where you can write a new substance is formed after the constituents are chemically combined. So a compound has different properties from its constituent. So whatever chemical combined, like you can say whatever elements are combining together, a compound is going to have different properties from its constituent. Okay, then in mixture, no new substances are formed in mixture, and the properties are dependent on the properties of their respective constituent. Getting it, everyone? So now I'm going to tell you all the points one by one. Make sure you're writing it. First of all, you have to write the difference between compound and mixture, like the definition point. For how can you define compound? Compounds are substances which can be formed by chemically combining two or more elements. Okay, and mixtures are substances that are formed by physically mixing two or more substances. Got it? Then compounds, they are going to have all pure substances under them, and mixtures we can categorize further as impure substances. What are mixtures? Mixtures are further categorized as impure substances. Then in compounds, the chemical composition is always fixed. In mixture, the chemical composition is going to be different. They can have variable composition. Okay, then you can write that compounds are always homogeneous in nature, and mixtures can either be homogeneous or heterogeneous in mixture. Got it? So I hope everyone is taking a note of the difference. I hope everyone is writing the difference between compounds and mixtures. Even you can write example of compound. It can be like water, H2O. It can be hydrogen peroxide, H2O2. Okay, so you can write that. After this, like discussing about compounds and mixtures, the difference, I hope you have got the difference between compounds and mixtures now, because like I know like it's a bit confusing, but I hope now you have understood and you will be able to write a note on it as well, right? Now after this we need to study about elements. Now what are elements according to you? Like if I ask you what are elements, any one of you are aware about what exactly an element is? See, elements are species of atom which are going to have same number of protons in their atomic nuclei. Now we know an atom always have a nuclei, right? So elements are some species of atoms with same number of protons present in their atomic nuclei. Okay, so elements we can represent them by symbol like hydrogen, boron, carbon, silicon. Okay, so how will you write elements? Elements are species of atom which have same number of proton in their atomic nuclei. Got it? I hope everyone is defining element what exactly it is. They are species of atom which are going to have same number of proton in their atomic nuclei. You can even add on the examples of elements, like for hydrogen it is H, then for boron it is B, for carbon it's C, and for silicon it's Si. Okay, so I just want you all to please write it in your book. After elements, like we have to discuss that elements are further classified as metals and non-metals, and even we have like metalloids as well. So we will discuss about metal, non-metal, and metalloid. This is like an introductory part to the lesson what exactly we need to study. So I'm giving you a basic idea, okay, and I hope every one of you are taking a note of it in your book, because that is important. After elements we have like metals to discuss. See, metal is a solid material, which is like if you have to write metal, it's a solid material which is typically hard, shiny, malleable, fusible, and ductile with good electrical and thermal conductivity. Now, these are some of the physical properties of metals. Now, ductility means when we can convert the metal into thin wire. Okay, that is known as ductility. When we can convert them into thin sheet, like when metals can be converted, if the metals can be converted into thin sheet, that property of metal is known as malleability. Okay, if they can be converted into, you can say, thin wire, that property is ductility. So malleability is into thin sheet, ductility is into thin wire, and sonority means, like, as you might have heard, that metals produce a sound when struck, right? So that sound which has been produced by them, we know that sound as sonority. Okay, and like good electrical and thermal conductivity means they are good conductors of heat and electricity. Okay, so these are some of the properties that I want you to write, and you should be knowing the examples of metals as well. So we have aluminium, copper, iron, tin, gold, silver. These are all metals. So I just want you all to write a note on elements in your book. I hope you all are writing about metal. Metal is a solid material which is hard, shiny. Now, shiny can also be called as lustrous. Malleable, it means we can convert them into thin sheet. Ductile means they can be converted into thin wires. Okay, sonorous, that is they produce a sound when struck, and they have good electrical and thermal conductivity. Got it, everyone? After that, we have non-metals to discuss. Now, whatever property that you wrote for metal, the opposite is going to be for non-metals. So, non-metals are going to be, you can say, non malleable, non-ductile, non-sonorous. Okay, they are poor conductor of heat and electricity. And you can write the example as carbon, boron, coal. These are all examples of non-metals. So whatever you have written for metals, you just have to like write opposite for non-metals. Getting it, everyone? Okay. So after metal and non-metals, we have metalloids as well. And you know what are metalloids? The metalloids are the elements who exhibit the properties of metals and non-metals both. Okay. So any substance who are having the properties of both metal and non-metal, we call them as metalloids. Okay. Example you can write as boron, silicon, germanium, arsenic, antimony. These are all examples of metalloids. Okay. So do I repeat the examples? Boron, silicon, germanium, antimony, arsenic. They are all examples of metalloids. I hope everyone is writing it properly in your book. After metabolites we have mixtures. Now you are already aware of mixture, right? When it comes to crude oil, now crude oil is one of a mixture. So crude oil is a mixture of organic compounds which includes mainly hydrocarbons, that is they are made up of hydrogen and carbon. Okay, then we have seawater. We know seawater is a mixture of salt and water, right? And always remember that there are two types of mixtures. Okay, how many types? Two types of mixtures. One is known as homogeneous mixture and the other is known as heterogeneous mixture. Now homo means same and hetero means different, right? So homogeneous mixture, how can you define it? A mixture which has, now I want you all to write this definition in your book. Okay, homogeneous mixture is a mixture which has uniform composition throughout. Okay, what did I said? A mixture which has uniform composition throughout is called homogeneous mixture or solution. Okay, and we can give the example as sugar in water, salt in water. They are all examples of homogeneous mixture. I'm repeating the definition once again. A mixture which has uniform composition throughout is called homogeneous mixture. Okay, and you can write the example is sugar in water, salt in water. Okay, then we have the second type of mixture as heterogeneous mixture. Now a mixture which contains physically distinct part and they are going to have non-uniform composition. Now homogeneous mixture had uniform composition throughout, that is why we call them as homogeneous mixture. But heterogeneous mixture is not going to have, it is going to have non-uniform composition, so that is heterogeneous mixture. And the example will be mixture of salt and iron fillings, mixture of sand and sugar. They are all example of heterogeneous mixture. Got it? So I just want you all to write about homogeneous and heterogeneous mixture once. I hope everyone is writing about homogeneous and heterogeneous mixture. After this homogeneous, I hope everyone has written about homogeneous and heterogeneous mixture now. After this homogeneous and heterogeneous mixture, we have physical and chemical changes. So, the nature of the substance, where the particles they are going to make, the particles that make up it, and the quantity of particles, they all remain unaltered after a physical change, right? But in chemical change, a new compound will be formed with different properties from the original one, right? So if you have to define physical change, how can you define it? So a substance is said to undergo a physical change when only the physical properties such as shape, size, color, or the state of the substance changes. Getting it? So, how will you write it? How will you define physical change? A substance is said to undergo physical change when only the physical properties, now physical properties include the shape, size, color, and the state of the substance. When they change, then only we say that it's a physical change when the physical properties are changing. Okay, and always remember, in a physical change, no new substance has been formed. Okay, so you can write the example of for physical change as melting of ice, boiling water. They are example of physical change. Then when it comes to chemical change, a substance is said to undergo a chemical change when a new substance with completely new properties has been formed. So in physical change, no new substance is formed, but in chemical change, a new substance will be formed. An example of chemical change can be burning of wood or paper, then souring of milk. They are all examples of chemical change. So how will you define physical change? A substance is said to undergo physical change when only the physical properties such as shape, size, color, or state of the substance changes and no new substance has been formed. Okay, and when it comes to chemical change, a substance is said to undergo a chemical change when a new substance with completely new properties are been formed, where the physical and chemical properties are also altered. And the example here we can write it as burning of wood or a paper, souring of milk is a chemical change. Okay, so I just want every one of you to write what is physical change an example, and then what is chemical change an example of it. Now I'll also talk about solution in short, and then I'll stop for today. Okay, I'll make you understand what exactly we are going to study. Like there are many different concepts yet. Actually, this is a very lengthy lesson where you will be studying on many different techniques. So whatever I'm telling you today is the basic thing. Okay, so I just want you all to please go through like whatever you have written till now in your book. Okay. So now I hope like you are writing about physical and chemical changes. Once you complete with that, I'll let you know what exactly we are going to study in the whole lesson, and even I'll let you know the exercise question, like what exactly we will be discussing further. Okay. Now see, we will be starting this lesson by discussing on the classification of element. Okay, because we know we can classify elements as metals, non-metals and metalloids. But before that, as we started discussing about like the pure elements, right? So we'll be discussing on that. Then we'll discuss in detail about what is a mixture. So if you all remember, I gave you the differentiation between compounds and mixtures so that you get an idea like what is the exact difference that exists between them. Then we have types of mixtures to discuss in detail, where we have homogeneous mixture, we have heterogeneous mixture, right? So we'll discuss about them as well. But if you can see, there are different activities through which we are going to discuss about mixture, right? So after mixture we will discuss on what is a solution. So we have diluted solution to discuss, concentrated solution and saturated solution. These are the different types of solutions that we will be discussing about: diluted, concentrated and saturated. Okay, then after studying in detail about what is a solution, we have this examples of all the solutions. We will be discussing on the properties of a solution as well, like what are the different properties of solution. Okay, then after discussing the properties, we have concentration of solution to discuss as well. What are the different concentrations of a solution which are present? Then we have activity 2.3 to discuss in detail. Okay, and here we have some of the most important, you can say, formulas which are bit given. Okay, so there are three ways or three methods of expressing the concentration of solution. So they have been given over here, like mass by mass percentage of solution, mass by volume percentage of solution, volume by volume percentage of solution. Now this is very important when you get any numerical in your exam to like solve. You knowing and like you knowing how and which formula to apply is very important, so we'll study on that. Then we have an example for like for the same, like what kind of numericals can be asked. As I told you, like when you get numericals in exam, you should be knowing like which proper formula you need to go through, right? So we'll discuss on this example 2.1. Then after discussing about you can say about it, we will be discussing about what is a suspension. So after discussing solution in detail, once you understand the concept of solution, the next thing that we have to study is about suspension. So we will be starting with it by studying the properties of suspension, like what are the different properties of suspension, where we will be discussing on one important effect which is known as Tyndall effect. Okay, so we'll discuss on the Tyndall effect, then we will discuss the properties of colloid. So for that you should be knowing what is a colloid, and once you know what is colloid, we will discuss some of the properties of colloid as well. And here we have few of the examples of colloid which have been given over here in the table. Okay, then we will discuss on separating the components of mixture, like how the component of the mixture can be separated. So here we have different processes which includes evaporation, centrifugation, separating funnel, sublimation, chromatography, distillation, filtration, and there are many more methods to separate the component of mixture, which we will be discussing in detail, okay, while we study this topic. Then we'll discuss on how can we obtain colored component from a blue or a black ink. So here also what are we doing? We are just separating the component from a mixture, right? We are separating the colored component from mixture. Then we'll discuss on how can we separate cream from milk. Now this we all do it, right? So we'll discuss that in detail as well, like how exactly we can separate cream from milk, and we will perform this activity 2.5 if possible as well. Okay, then we'll discuss on like how exactly we can separate a mixture of two immiscible liquid. Now this is again very important for us to know, like how can we separate a mixture of two immiscible liquids. We will be studying that through example, through activity 2.6, and after that we will be discussing on the applications as well. Okay, after that we'll discuss on like how can we separate a mixture of salt and camphor. Now that is also very important, okay, because we are studying about separating the things. Then after that we'll discuss on, is the dye in black ink a single color, or it is like different colors with which it has been made up of. So again we will discuss it through activity 2.7 in detail. Then we are going to discuss how can we separate a mixture of two miscible liquids. So we will be discussing that through activity 2.8. Okay, after that we will discuss on like how can we obtain different gases from air. So we'll discuss that in detail. Now we know that air is a mixture of gases, right? So how can we obtain those different gases from air? We will discuss that. Then we'll discuss on like how can we obtain pure copper sulfate from an impure sample. Now this is very important, which we will again discuss it through activity 2.9 in detail. After that, like this is a kind of crystallization method which we will discuss on, like which we use it to purify the solid, okay, and then we have the applications of it. So we'll discuss that as well. Then we'll discuss about the physical and the chemical changes, like what are physical changes and what are chemical changes in detail. After physical and chemical changes, we are going to discuss on like what are the types of pure substances. Okay, so we'll discuss and we will classify them further as elements. Okay, and elements are further classified as metals, non-metals, and metalloids. So here we have few of the properties of metals along with the meaning and exceptions. Then we'll discuss about compounds in detail, like what are compounds exactly, as we have already discussed the difference between compounds and mixtures. I hope every one of you are clear with it now. So we'll discuss more about compounds through activity 2.10. So we have this differentiating table which is like already been given between mixtures and compounds, good for you all, right? Then we'll discuss about pure compounds and mixtures in detail. And then we have this summary discussion for this lesson, is matter around us pure? So like after this summary we will be like ending up with the lesson, but we have few exercise questions as well at the end of the lesson, right? Which you know that we always do it once we complete with the summary part, right? So once we complete with the lesson, we have some of the exercise questions which I'm going to show you one by one now. And I want each one of you to please have a glance through all the question, because when I end up with the lesson, you are the one who is going to answer all of the answers, okay? So please go through the question which has been given on screen, everyone. I hope everyone is going through this question. You just have to go through the question, like what kind of questions they have asked at the end of the lesson. That's all for now. So here we have like one group activity as well, which you can do, and this is how we will be ending up with the lesson. Is matter around us pure? Okay, so I hope like whatever we have discussed today in this part, like I was mostly focused on teaching you the basic concepts, because what happens, like students are not aware of the basic concept, and if I start the lesson, it will not be like good for you all, right? So I hope now you all are clear with the basic terms that we have studied till now. Okay, so now from the next part I will be starting with the exact part of the lesson, like the first slide we will start with it. Okay, and I hope you all are clear with the basic terms whatever we discussed. Now the rest of the part for the lesson I'm going to continue in the next part. Thank you everyone.